Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Rhyme of the Times for the week ending 9th of March 2024. Trump on a roll, leaving Haley out in the cold. Biden insists he's not too old and is still in control. Hunt gives his heart and soul and is occasionally droll, but his budget, including an idea he stole, is not that bold, and most aren't sold, if the truth be told. And the Tories remain way behind in the polls. RNLI is extolled. On Monday, the Supreme Court had its say, giving a massive ruling in the USA, stating that states could not choose whom to allot space to on their presidential ballot. Colorado wanted Trump banned from their election for his part in the Capitol insurrection. Their top court had ruled Trump should be spurned, but the Supreme Court now had that call overturned. They didn't want a dangerous precedent being set, or indeed have a former president upset. Only Congress can decide who should be disqualified, and so Trump's MAGA mob were mollified. The next day was what's known as Super Tuesday, or the day when lots of states get to Tuesday. The day after that, Nikki just called it a day, meaning Trump's last challenger had fallen away. In the primaries, Miss Haley's defeat was resounding. Losing 14 out of 15 is quite a pounding. Many question why she chose to run at all when from day one the writing was on the wall. Did she think she could come first if she could just outlast a former president, hoping he'd become an outcast when the weight of lawsuits finally turned the tide and voters turned against him when he's banged up inside? In other words, a process of elimination was the only way she'd get the nomination. So Trump is once again just one step away from becoming the president of the USA. Probably for much of the West, that's a thought that scares with his general disinterest in foreign affairs. Ukraine's future, for a start, will be in jeopardy if it's starved of dollars and vital weaponry. While Putin smiles at his piles of meat still to grind, Trump's foreign policy seems to be out of sight, out of mind. Short-sighted and out of his mind, experts say, if he thinks war in Europe is too far away. He, however, insists he can end it in one day. He will seal a deal and Ukrainians can pay. But messages from history would generally convey appeasement will not keep a bully at bay. Meanwhile, Biden's bidding for a second term, as his nomination has been all but confirmed. He's firm in his mind that his mind's not infirm, but when he starts speaking, many people start to squirm. But Thursday's State of the Nation speech to Congress was regarded by most Democrats as a success. He sometimes lost his thread, but he didn't lose his head, even when Republicans mocked some of the things he said. He confronted the age-old question of his age with an observation pertinent and sage. It's Trump who is past his political sell-by date, with his ideas and words of division and hate. He warned the Kremlin coward that the USA would keep backing Ukraine and never walk away. And support for Netanyahu seems to be fading after months of fruitless efforts to persuade him to try a less confrontational tack in hammering Hamas and getting hostages back. Evidence that America have changed their stance. They're now only negotiating with Benny Gantz. The war cabinet minister that Netanyahu appointed is now getting his boss's nose disjointed. And so to politics this side of the pond, and Galloway's return from the political beyond. Gorgeous George, as he has been known, gave cause for all sides of the Commons to groan. After last week's Rochdale by-election win, he came to Parliament to be sworn in. No doubt many could have sworn at him with his dripping sarcasm and contemptuous grin. The mutual disrespect is well respected and, given the history, to be expected. His forceful oratory for many is persuasive. For Jews it's probably just abrasive. Ahead could be some pretty dark days if his anti-Jewish vibe becomes pervasive. This week the budget came and went in probably this government's last big event, when it could show the country its intent. Some reassurance for the electorate was meant. The House was rowdy, but Hunt was unflustered. But his speech on Wednesday did not cut the mustard. Many Tories hoped for a pre-election blockbuster, but it all turned out pretty lackluster. People accept there's no land of milk and honey, but they wouldn't mind a little bit more money. But on average the tax burden rose again because personal tax thresholds froze again. For workers, Hunt spread a little love around, cutting national insurance by 2p in the pound. And with money tight, they finally snapped and agreed to non-dom tax status being scrapped. Overall, though, there were no rabbits from the hat, and the mood, like our economic growth, was flat. No big winners, no big losers, all a bit bland. Hunt would say he was showing a steady hand. And more gloom ahead, with council tax being upped as more and more local councils go bankrupt. And finally on Monday, something to celebrate, a charitable institution that makes Britain great. 2 centuries of volunteers stopping people die, 2 centuries of heroes on whom many rely. 200 years of the RNLI.